tougher than we'd figured. When you can't stand and you don't want to die, well, there's always a third way. Now we went after our biggest target so far, the fortress city of Metz. Maybe we forgot our manners with the latest batch of Nazis who forgot to stand or die. But Metz hadn't been easy. Nothing was going to be easy anywhere along our lines. For the Nazi Wehrmacht was tough. Costing us good men. Green replacements were becoming seasoned old soldiers, almost overnight. Then there was good news from Belgium. Antwerp was working for us at last. The enemy had been knocked out of the skies and from the islands surrounding the big port. Shortages of ammo, gas, equipment weren't going to limit our movements again. Things we needed were coming in. But those weeks we'd lost were going to help hand us our heaviest jolt. For now it was winter. Once upon a time, armies just stopped fighting when winter hit. Winter slowed down movement. Winter meant additional hardship. But we couldn't give up the initiative. We had to go on. Nazi had been counting on winter weather, and he knew just where he could make it pay off. In the middle of our line, stretching about 85 miles, was the Ardennes Forest. To its north, we had 2 divisions. There were 2 more in the south. We were using the Ardennes as a combined training and rest area. The Nazi knew that, too. His tanks and forces had been massed under tightest security and concealed areas. Now he lashed out. It was a now or never gamble. With his dwindling reserves of equipment and toughened veterans from the Russian campaigns, he aimed to split us in 2 and drive on to retake Antwerp. And we paid for it. Once again, the natives were leaving their farms with everything they could carry. The Nazi planning didn't didn't include rations. They were that desperate. They'd live off the land till they could stock up from our warehouses at Liège and Rheims. That's where he headed, punching a bulge into our thinly held line. Outside a little town nobody'd ever heard of, named Bastogne, we dug in. For Bastogne commanded the highways to those cities. We dug in and held 24 hours a day while we waited for relief. There weren't any more cooks, company clerks, bakers. Only fighting men. Other outfits in the line are dug in. Probably didn't even have time to savvy it was December 25th. You know, somehow you don't think of war going on that day. I used to read how there'd be a truce on Christmas Day. I've seen it in history books. Yeah, history. Real past history. Things were different in 1944. We had Christmas trees, of course. The Ardennes was full of them. Only you didn't know who was behind them. Of course, I have to admit, our platoon had a lucky break. We had Christmas dinner. No fixings, mind you. We sure had the main course. Maybe a few managed some holiday spirit, but for most of us it was just another day on the job. A soldier's job. The job was going to get tougher. And so was the weather. Communications were disrupted. Supply lines cut. Contact between units was lost. And there were units that were lost, too. There was no telling where the enemy had been or where he was going to be. He'd even infiltrated with specially trained fighters. They wore our uniform and spoke our language. So we asked trick questions. Who won the World Series? What was Betty Grable's last film? That did it. And because they were spies, did for them too. The weather had been on the enemy's side, but time was on ours, so we held on. Then one beautiful day, never mind the weather, a whole armored division from 3rd Army broke through to relieve us. The enemy's bid for Bastogne was ended. Now we could get back on the offensive. Still hit us for losses, but the steam was gone from his counterpunch. He could delay us, but that's all. The Bulge was shrinking fast. The Wehrmacht's strength was melting, and so were the snow and ice that had helped. Thaws could slow us down, but the break in weather brought another kind of break. Clearing skies brought us air support. Units that couldn't be reached over truck routes, units cut off by enemy action could now get rationed. Medical supply, equipment of all kinds by airdrop. More important, air action could help us smash resistance and help pitch the Nazi back onto his own soil. Besides the ones who hot-footed it back to the fatherland to fight another day, There were the lucky ones who wouldn't. Then again, there were the unlucky ones who couldn't. What about us? Well, we'd won our battle. The Battle of the Bulge. And now we just get on with the job of soldiering. There'd be towns to take. We took. Then there'd be a river called the Rhine. We crossed it. That was the beginning of the end. Well, there was more fighting, of course. Hard fighting. But now there wasn't any question about how it'd end. That was the holiday season for soldiers, 1944. Next Christmas, we'd be spending at home. Those of us who made it.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the others.
It breaks again. Then nobody ever figured soldiering was an easy job. Let's see. You've been in the service for a little over a year, right?
Closer to a year and a half.
Nice record, too. It's a good thing to have, Shaw. Take a bad record. You can foul a man up whether he stays in or leaves. Records stick.
Yeah, I suppose that's so. Well, Sarge, I suppose I better shove. I'm a little bit late. Told North I'd meet him over at the PX. I'll fill the rest of these things when I get back.
On your way, soldier. See you later.
Cynics have often said that we Americans win our victories in spite of our ties to comfort, our longing, call it need, for home and loved ones. As a matter of fact, it's not in spite of, but because of those ties that we stick it out and come through. Way back in our struggle for independence, during the terrible winter of Valley Forge, Thomas Paine wrote the memorable lines, "These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot shrink from the service of their country." At Valley Forge and down through the years to the Battle of the Bulge and on later to Korea, the American soldier has proved himself to be a winter soldier. For that steadfastness and devotion to duty, an entire nation must be forever grateful. Now, this is Sergeant Stuart Queen, your host for The Big Picture.
The Big Picture is an official report for the armed forces and the American people. Produced by the Army Pictorial Center. Presented by the Department of Army in cooperation with this station.